Heyo! I buy a lot of games. Like, a lot. And as hard as I try, I just simply don't end up playing through all of them. I'll find a great game for a really good price, I'll buy it with complete intentions of playing it, only for it to sit on my shelf for years until I finally get around to playing it. Or sometimes, I never end up getting around to playing it. But hey, you know what? It happens to all of us. We all have a backlog that's haunting us. But how should we approach it? How should we finish out this backlog? Now, I don't think that having a backlog is an inherently bad thing. If you only have one game that you haven't played at any given time, that would be a pretty limiting situation because there's barely anything new for you to try. Sure, you can replay one of your favorite games, but other than that, that's about it. You really don't have much to do, and it's nice to have options. But sometimes, though, we can have too many options, and choosing what to play can simply become overwhelming. Over the pandemic, I started taking a crack at my backlog, and while I made some good progress, the backlog actually only ended up getting bigger. I started to try even harder to bring that list of unfinished games down, but eventually I realized that I had been approaching the whole thing wrong. First of all, when can you truly say that you beat a game? Is it just when the credits roll? Is it when you 100% the game, or is it something else? What about multiplayer games that don't even have a campaign? When would you consider those games beaten? My strategy was to focus entirely on the main story, and when I finally beat it, I'd move on to the next game. But that's such a terrible way to approach things. Now, I was collecting, spending, which really isn't the best idea financially, but is an even worse idea when I'm trying to lower the amount of games in my backlog, because my backlog only ended up getting bigger. This made me have to try and beat these games at a faster pace, but I just wasn't enjoying them that much because I wasn't really experiencing them. One of the things that sets video games apart from other forms of media is the way that they approach world building, and a great way that they do that is through things like side quests. Take Skyrim, for example. So much of the game's charm can be found through side quests and exploring the world. And I have a confession to make, I still haven't beaten Skyrim. I've put over 150 hours into that game, and most of those 150 hours were into the side quests. I still haven't beaten the main story. I had a similar experience with the Yakuza games. I have beaten the main story in most of those games, but the side quests are clearly a huge focus of those games. The side quests are so funny, they can be hilarious, they can be emotional, they add so much to the game and to its world.
大丈夫ですか何か僕バブーバブーやんぞバーターそれに近づくな今ついに行きます今ついに行きます何する地獄絵図だ渡れたじゃねえか
You can't really say you experienced a Yakuza game without experiencing the side quests. My story-only approach prevented me from seeing all the cool post-game content and all the cool side quests that the games have to offer. New Game Plus is so cool and adds so many new things, but straight up plowing through my backlog prevented me from taking the time to actually experience it. Sometimes I would force my way through games that I didn't even want to play. I started playing No Man's Sky after being introduced to it by a friend, and after a while, I honestly did enjoy it. When I tried to get more into it though, I lost interest pretty quickly, but I told myself, hey, you need to just push through it so you can get this through the backlog and you can be done with it. But it just wasn't worth it looking back. Though it may have sucked to lose money on the game, it doesn't mean I should waste my time playing a game that I just don't want to play. I also feel like that approach made me appreciate the games I was playing much less. You know, I've never been one for difficult games. I tend to stray away from those because I just simply don't have what it takes to beat them, and that frustration honestly just doesn't really do it for me. But I'm not one to back down when a game challenges me. I got Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania without even knowing that the Monkey Ball games are considered difficult, and so when I was faced with a challenge, I was struggling. No matter how angry I got at the game, I told myself, I gotta beat it, I gotta keep going through this game, I have to finish it so I can get it out of my backlog. But every mistake that I made me feel like I was wasting my time. Honestly, if I had played that game with the intention of simply experiencing it, sure, I would have been a little angry by the fact that I couldn't make it through a lot of the levels, but it would have been at least somewhat satisfying to know this is the experience of the game. The struggle is part of the experience. But when I'm solely focused on beating the game, anything that even slightly prevents me from finishing the game as quickly as possible just frustrated me. I had no other goal than just beating it, and therefore, the time that I spent playing it had no other purpose. All the hours I spent were exclusively meant for beating the game, so when I experienced a roadblock, it was all the more infuriating since I had to spend more time towards beating the game. It felt like I was being told that something would cost $10 only to end up spending $20, and that's just not a fun way to approach things. As I've started to look at my backlog differently, I'm playing games now with the intention of getting the ideal experience out of the game. If it takes me 100 hours to beat the game, but it usually takes 10 hours, so be it. At least I can say that I truly had fun, I truly enjoyed it. I could 100% a game, or I may not even beat it at all. All that matters to me now is that when I finally call it quits, I'm able to truly say that I got the best experience out of it that I could. As big as my backlog may get, I want to make sure that I'm actually enjoying the things I spent my money on. All in all, it's not about the end result of whatever you're doing when you play video games, but it's the journey that got you there. I know that's pretty cheesy, but it is so true. Don't feel pressured to rip through your entire backlog as fast as possible. I've seen a ton of videos online saying, do this to beat your backlog really quickly, and it's not really worth it. Just play the games at your own pace. You know, find something in your backlog that you think, hey, I could kind of feel like playing that right now, and just play it. If you don't feel like playing it after playing it for a couple hours, whatever, at least you gave it a shot. You don't want to waste your time. If you really, really like it and you want to keep playing it after you beat the game, go for it. 100% it for all you care. It's your time. You should spend it the way that you want. Work through it at your own pace and just enjoy each game. Because even if your backlog is crazy large, you'll get to each game eventually. Just take your time and enjoy the ride.
do 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 do